let's talk about one of my favorite people, as you know. Let's talk about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, I think one of the most horrible people out there. There's a video out circulating with clips of J.D. Vance speaking. And I want to show you this video because I think this video encapsulates who J.D. Vance is. And I'm actually going to play it at, 1.25 speed because, hey, why not? Let's hear J.D. Vance talk really, really fast. The video is 5 minutes long. I don't know if I'll show you the whole thing, but we'll play it. Maybe I'll stop it. Maybe I won't. Probably I'll stop it, right? I can't help myself. And you can watch. This is the future of the Republican Party. Well, no, I should say it. This is the present and the future of the Republican Party. Right now, according to polls among Republicans, J.D. Vance is the leading candidate to be the presidential nominee in 2028, assuming Trump is not running. He is likely to be president. He is smart, articulate, ideological. He knows what he wants. Let's listen to what he wants.
Go after the companies that are destroying this country, reward the companies that are building it. It's that simple. That's what public policy is about. If you think
so, the government should reward companies that are building this country based on the government's assessment of whether they're building or destroying, and penalize the company that destroy this country. Now, no understanding here that the fact is that companies that build, create value, trade with us, make money, are by definition building the country. And the countries that are destroying this country are the companies that are losing money, that are going bankrupt, and therefore destroying the country. No understanding that that's exactly what the market does. The market rewards those that build the country and destroys, puts in bankruptcy. This is called creative destruction. Companies that don't. I mean, and it's not that he's no understanding. This guy has read Ayn Rand. He used to be a free market guy. It's that he understands that that's not where power is. Power is in, I like you, I don't like you. You get a subsidy, you get destroyed. I put you away. We break up your company. We subsidize your company. That's power. There's no power in, write contracts, go have fun, go produce stuff, go make stuff, go build stuff, go make stuff. I mean, if you don't, go bankrupt. That's fine with me. I'm not going to bail you out. There's no power in that. Power demands action. Power demands intervention.
I think that we're going to have to fight back against corporate America, against big tech, against the pharmaceutical industry.
We have to fight back against corporate America. Well, I mean, one way you can fight back is don't buy their products. But no, we have to fight back against them.
If you think we're going to have to do these things, well, the government's pretty much the only path in town. What I worry...
Well, the only way to fight big corporation is using the government. He's right. I mean, what are you and me going to do? Not buy their products? That's not fighting. And it's not in mass, just you and me. Maybe we can advertise it, but it's not going to be huge. But the government can fight them. It can regulate them. It can sue them. It can shut them down. And it can subsidize the guys that they like. And he assumes we have to fight big corporations. We have to. And maybe this was in the days of DEI. What about when there's no DEI? Well, we still have to fight them because they're not doing what we want them to do. They're not enhancing the country by his own, whatever, estimates, whatever those are.
Only path in town. What I worry about is that we have outsourced in the conservative movement our economic and our domestic policy thinking to the libertarians.
We've outsourced economics and domestic policy theory to libertarians. Now, let's here assume libertarians means free markets. So let's not address the wacko libertarians. Just free market libertarians, people who want free markets. Let's assume that's what he means. Yeah, right? When did this ever happen? When was the last time there was mass deregulation? When was the last time we shrunk government spending? When was the last time we lowered the level of welfare spending? When was the last time we proposed reforming Medicare and Social Security? When was this? I mean, I wish. But the Republican Party has never been pro-free markets. And it certainly has never outsourced their thinking to free market types, and they've never implemented any free markets. Calvin Coolidge was not that great. In many respects, Calvin Coolidge was awful. and set us up for the disaster that we live in today. It's terrible on tariffs. It's terrible in immigration. So
the failure to use political power that the public has given is a choice.
the failure to use political power means the failure to use force, the failure to use coercion, the failure to use a gun.
And it's a choice that is increasingly had, and I think increasingly will have, incredibly dire consequences. Then we
So it's a choice. It's a choice the Republican Party has made not to use coercion. Wait a minute. What are we talking about? Hasn't the Republican Party grown government substantially and significantly? When did the Republican Party ever stand for free markets? Maybe a little bit under Reagan, a little bit teeny-weeny bits.
have to be willing to pursue a politics that actually wants to accomplish something besides just making government smaller.
When did Republicans ever pursue a policy to make government smaller? When did this happen?
Problem with, frankly, some of our interlocutors on the right is that their worldview appears to be that every time Republicans gain a governing majority, they have to sit on their hands and do nothing with it. Our critiques of the administrative
Nothing. I wish they do nothing with it. They always grow government. Spend more. Regulate more.
state are very often correct. But our answer to this can't be every single time the American people give us power, the only thing that we try to do is to trim down the thing that they gave us control over.
But they gave you control of it so that you trim it down. You ran on that. And then the American people say, yes, we like that. We like Tea Party. We like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and these guys. We like them. We want them to trim government down. That's what we voted for. And then they go in there and they don't trim it down. And that's when the American people get frustrated and angry. But the reason some of us voted for you, gave you power, was for you to trim government. And then you don't. So who's betraying whom here? You want to use that power to grow your power. You tell us on the campaign trail, you're going to trim government, you're pro the Constitution, pro the founding of America, pro founding fathers. And then when you get into power, you want to abuse that, which you do. You've done it all the time. I mean, he's got such a straw man of the Republican Party.
The counter argument to the idea that, well, we can't give the power to government, we can't give any power to government because then the left might misuse it, is to look at the United States military. Right? If your argument is Gina Raimondo may misuse the CHIPS bill, therefore we cannot do the CHIPS bill, well, I guess we should abolish the Department of Defense because Joe Biden's doing a lot of crazy crap with the Defense Department. Look, the big difference.
You figure that one out. That one's beyond me. It's complete nonsensical. As if the Defense Department is not being abused by both left and right. George Bush certainly abused the Defense Department and our military. Yeah, you know, that should make us think twice. No? Whoops. What did I do? Yeah, right.
Look, the big difference between the left and the right is the left loves to use power and the right is terrified of using power.
Really?
I did this event at the Yale Federalist Society recently where they asked me for my 3 favorite Democrats purely in terms of policy outcomes. And I said, in order, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Tulsi Gabbard.
Notice it. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, those are his favorite Democrats in terms of policy outcomes. He took the most left-wing Democrats. And you want to tell me this administration is dramatically better, different than a Democratic one when it comes to domestic policy? In many respects, they're much, much worse. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, those are the 3 he chose in terms of policy outcomes. He shares the same outcomes. We're talking about egalitarianism. They're all egalitarians. Haters of business. Haters of entrepreneurs. Haters of success. And this is a young J.D. Vance. This is when he was less radical.
The left has a basic instinctive advantage because they love to use power, but we're just going to have to get over it. You have a conservative movement that very often sort of saw its purpose as scaling back progressive exercises of power rather than pursuing its own ends And that, I think, was a really, really significant problem. And if there's a sort of distinction between the new right and the old right, it probably, again, abstractions are always really challenging, but it's probably that the old right was terrified of using power for conservative ends, and the new right is not.
Why don't we seize
the new right is not afraid of using power. You all should be really, really, really afraid of the new right, because they want to use power like the left, and the outcome they want is no different. He just said, on outcomes, he agrees with Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Tulsi Gabbard. Where are the defenders of the Trump administration? I don't see them in the chat. Maybe somebody can defend
the assets
JD.
of the Ford Foundation, tax their assets, and give it to the people who have had their lives destroyed by their radical open borders agenda.
You hear this phrase, Steve, you hear this slogan,
tax.
Go woke, go broke, right? If the railroad industry has gone woke, and it has, if it's setting off chemical bombs in our communities, and it has, isn't it the job of the servants of the people to make them pay up a little? Some issues I'm very traditionally conservative, but like one issue, for example, where I depart pretty strongly from the traditional Republican line is I think a lot of folks in the Republican Party, they see what's going on with Google, Apple, Facebook, with big tech writ large, and they say, well, we don't like what they're doing. We don't like the fact that they censor conservatives, but they're private companies, and so we can't actually do anything with them. And my response to that is, well, first of all, they're not actually private companies. They benefit from a ton of special government privileges, but also they're just too powerful. Like,
free speech just went out the window, guys. Went out the window. Not even pretense of free speech. So what if they're private companies? They're big, and we hate big. It sounds exactly like the left. Sounds exactly like Elizabeth Warren. We hate big. And if they're behaving in ways that we don't like, whatever that happens to be. By the way, I'm sure right now, Twitter would not make that list because Twitter's behaving the way he likes. Not the way the left likes, but the way he likes. Who gets to decide? This is stunning. And it's really, thank you to Jason Hart. By the way, Jason Hart, I think a kind of free market economist, I think, who put this compilation together, and you can find it online. It goes on. There's another minute and a half of this, but you get the drift of this. These guys are really evil. They're really evil. This is the kind of country they want to turn us into, a statist, authoritarian country where the right uses power to tell us how to live. He is a student of Deneen, Patrick Deneen from Notre Dame, who advocates for the use of government to dictate morality. Indeed, the government should be run based on Christian morality. He's an advocate of Vermeulen, the law professor at Harvard University, who is a common good conservative, who believes that the Constitution means nothing, that what matters is the common good, and everything should be interpreted in the context of the common good. Scary stuff. Scary, scary, scary stuff. So I'm trying to scare you guys. I'm trying to get some of you, maybe some of you already there, to take the threat from the right seriously. I don't know. Some of you want me to play. Okay, here's the rest of it.
However they got there, they're way too powerful and they're way too big at this point.
It's time to break them up. It's time to destroy them.
Time to break them up.
Tax them.
Break up big tech.
Do whatever is necessary so that we can continue to have a good life in this country that all of us love.
Try to do whatever is necessary. Whatever is necessary. Whatever is necessary.
To save our democracy from oligarchs who are taking it away.
Oligarchs. These guys are oligarchs.
Facebook.
By the way, the team of Tucker Carlson, J.D. Vance, very close, still very close, in spite of Tucker Carlson going completely nuts and off the reservation. They're still very close. Can you imagine a J.D. Vance president with his chief advisor being Tucker Carlson? J.D. Vance is no friend. He's a friend of Russia. He hates Zelensky. He's no friend of Israel at the end of the day. He might pretend to be, but he's not. Remember Tucker Carlson's trajectory. He's certainly no friend of capitalism. There's just no pluses, no virtues. He's not woke, although he might be woke right.
Google, especially Twitter, YouTube, these companies all really do control what information gets out there in the public square.
Did you hear YouTube? He's coming after you.
Is when more establishment-style conservatives will say, "Well, you can't do anything about this. They're private companies."
Yeah.
Well, first of all, that's totally BS. They benefited from any number of special government privileges. They're not.
So that means that everybody's benefited from government privileges is not private anymore. By the way, all of you have driven on government roads. You probably went to government schools. You probably benefit somewhat from government health care. You've all benefited somewhat from government, and some of you might have benefited from the minimum wage and benefited from all those benefits that you get from your employer. That's all government mandated. So you've all benefited from government, and therefore none of you are private. All of you are basically owned by the government, and therefore they can control, tell you what to do, tell you what to say, tell you how to behave. You are just pawns because the government has touched you in some way. God forbid the concept of freedom come up.
Really private companies. They're basically behemoths that have been built on the back of special protections from the government. The other piece of it is that even if they were truly private companies, which again they're not, I care more about their ability to control the flow of information. They're just too powerful. Private or public, one of the things I think conservatives should push back against is anything that's too powerful. And they're way, way, way too powerful. Google and Facebook are not giving me a whole lot of money.
Even if they were completely private, he says, it wouldn't make a difference to him. Even if they were completely private, it wouldn't make a difference to him. Because what he's concerned about is the common good, the public interest. What's good for society. They're just too powerful. They're just too big. And he knows how big you should be, right? There's a optimal size. And J.D. Vance or his experts, they know. They are smart enough to identify exactly the right size a company needs to be.
Like me, because I believe that Americans ought to be able to speak their own mind in their own country, and I think these companies are too big. We're going to take the Teddy Roosevelt approach to some of them, break them up.
Wait a second, JD. Google is a private company, and we have no interest in attempting to constrain or control its behavior.
I know, people say that. Yeah.
What do you say when they do?
Well, my reaction to that is first of all, if I'm being honest, I just don't care. Go after.
And you got to say, as a premium, for sticking with the video all the way to the end, you got Tucker's laugh, which is the spookiest, most evil laugh ever. Well, not evil, really, just ridiculous. Yeah, you got to see it. You got to hear. That is J.D. Vance. You can find that video on Twitter or Jason Hart. Just go to Jason Hart's website. He put it up there with an article articulating his case against him. Pretty unbelievable. Pretty unbelievable. Why did I put the pre-show on? That's what it should be. Sorry.